Hey guys, Woods Farm here. Just working on a little project out in the garage. I'm going to make one of these propane tank wood stoves. So if you want to see how I make a stove, stick around and check it out. Okay, so I've made a few of these wood stoves over the years, a couple different designs. I'm going to try something new. I'll start off and show you how I'm going to go through the build process. Okay, so here's the propane tank I'm using. It's one of the slightly larger ones. I don't know if this is a 30-pound tank. In the past, they made them out of 20-pound tanks as well. Whatever you can get your hands on. These are usually pretty easy to come by. Most scrap yards want to get rid of them. Once they expire, they're pretty much no good. So you can get these for free. How I prep it, this one I already started to work on, but you can watch some YouTube videos. It's not as dangerous as you would think. Basically what I do is I bust off the valve. Once you get the valve off of it, what I've had success doing is I fill it with water, and that water forces all of the gas out. And once that happens, you can cut into these no problem with like a zip cut. So I've already got an opening cut into this one. It's already prepped. I do have to take off this powder coat, which is probably the most messy and annoying part of the project. Just some other basic materials. This is all scrap. Some angle iron. Actually, a lot of this stuff is actually just an old bed frame that I got out of the scrap yard and cut up. I'm going to use some 1-inch tubing for the legs, but you could use anything you have really. You could use angle, whatever you got. And I've got some 4-inch pipe. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to use here, but the 4-inch pipe is to make the flange for the stovepipe to connect in. Other than that, I'm going to need some material to make a door, some hinges. And I may on this one put a flat surface on the top to allow for like putting on a kettle to boil water, that kind of thing. You can see that's a pretty thick coating on there. And I just experimented with a couple of different discs. And ultimately I think the grinder is more aggressive, but it's going to leave kind of a rougher finish. And this paint stripper was working, but very slowly. I think my best bet is to just go with the flap disc. But I'm going to go outside and do this, even though it's winter. Keep as much of this stuff out of here as possible. Okay, I'm going to say that's by far the most difficult process. Took me about an hour. Eventually I pulled out the Tiger torch and started heating the paint up and then scratching it off. And that seemed to work pretty good. And then I finished up with the grinder. Now if you have a better way to do this, by all means let me know in the comments below. Maybe one thing would be to prep a bunch of these tanks and then throw them in a big bonfire. Let the paint burn off over a few hours. Might be an efficient way to do it if you were making a bunch of these. Maybe a chemical process, I don't know, but that is a very thick, very tough powder coat, and it's hard to get off. In fact, there's still just a little bit of white around this weld seam, but I just gave up. That's good enough. Good enough for now. So the next step is I'm actually going to make the opening a little bit larger, just to make it easier to get wood in and out. I think I can probably increase it by about 1 inch in both directions. So that'll actually make a pretty big difference. And I think, I wasn't sure if I was going to leave this piece on, but I'm gonna cut that off. It looks like there's 3 welds holding it on, so I'm gonna try to cut through those and grind it flush. Okay, that's the face for the door. So I'll have to cut a door, make a latch and hinges. But the reason I did this was to allow for a nice flush front. But there's other quicker ways you can do this. You can actually use the piece that you cut out and you can just put some edging on it so it overlaps. But I think this looks a little nicer. And I'll be honest, I'm just winging this. I'm making it up as I go. So just looking at what kind of pieces of material I have and just making it up on the fly. I was going to go with 4 legs, but I think I'm going to do a tripod. The benefit of 3 legs is it kind of self-levels. It doesn't matter if the surface it's on is even, it'll sit kind of flush. Whereas if you have 4 legs, you have that tendency to get a wobble and you have to shim them or make some sort of mechanism where you can lift the leg up or adjust it. So I think this is not too big that it'll require the 4 legs. I think 3 are fine. I made one before in a tripod style and it worked great. I think I'll do 2 legs at the front, 1 at the back. So I have to do that. I think that'll be next. And also I'm going to have to cut an opening for the flange. Well, it took some monkeying around to get it to kind of sit level. I ended up cutting too much off the back leg, which screwed everything up. And I had to adjust the front legs. But that's fine. It's basically level. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to cut out the opening for the stovepipe flange. If you're careful, you can use an angle grinder to cut a circle, at least a rough circle. And I decided to use about, I don't know, 10 inches of pipe. Then you just tack it in place. I tried to make it as level as possible. Just use the square and a level. You don't want it crooked, going off to one side or the other. And once you get it where you want it, just slowly work your way around with the welding. Okay, so a quick update. I actually backtracked and went ahead and did 4 legs. So I cut off the middle leg at the back there and added 2 on each side. I found it just wasn't stable enough. I think the tripod configuration works okay if you're doing like a vertical type wood stove where you use the tank vertical. But if you're going horizontal, if you're laying the tank on its side, definitely need 4 legs. So now I'm going to weld on that top, and at that point the body of the wood stove is complete. I just need to make the door, so I've got to add some ventilation, some air holes to allow airflow, and then I've got to make a latch, and I've got 2 hinges to weld it on. This wood stove's got a few different features. For starters, it's got a built-in damper in the chimney pipe. The reason I went with the chimney pipe is that's a thicker walled material. You end up getting a lot of heat down there. So if you have that thicker walled pipe, it actually absorbs that heat, and then eventually your thinner stovepipe can connect to the top. in the past with some of these smaller stoves, if you just go right to the thin pipe and you're running the stove really hot, that pipe will actually start to glow red hot. It's also got a little vent valve to control the airflow on the door, and just a very simple door latch. A couple other things I added onto it. There's a flat top, so you can cook with a pot or you can boil in a kettle. And I also have a couple of hooks, so I can use I can hook different things onto it, like little mess tins, and also gives you a little more cooking and water heating capacity. Okay, seems like this design's working pretty good. There's no smoking back. The damper seems to work. It seems to slow it down. Okay, we're gonna wrap this video up here. Good little wood stove. These are easy to build, and the materials are easy to come by. People are usually just giving away old propane tanks. If you want to see more videos like this on the channel, make sure to comment below. And if you want to see more Woods Farm content, we've got a couple other projects on the go. We've got the weekly videos of Project 222, the armored scout car that we're building. So definitely like and subscribe if you want to check out those videos. As always, thanks for watching.